A press conference is happening right now regarding the Menendez trial. Could they get a release? We got Christopher Melcher here to break it down. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. We've been live watching the press conference. We are going to go back to it in a second, but Christopher Melcher was nice enough to join in. And as he just explained, you've been following this trial for a while. Yes, you watched both versions of it?
Well, yeah, I'm a lifelong resident of Los Angeles. So when the crimes occurred, all of us in the community were like, wow, so this horrible thing happened. And you got to remember, they did not admit to killing their parents at the beginning. So they did not, do these horrific acts and then say, hey, I had to do this out of self-defense or whatever they were thinking. They denied any involvement in it, eventually were arrested. And it was really during that first trial that we started hearing about these allegations. And so I've, followed this case. So I'm going to try it again because everyone has a lot of opinions on it. We're just going to try and break down the
summarize
legal part of it.
That sort of is the issue. They introduced this abuse from the parents that they've never tried to say that they didn't. I mean, they did in the beginning. You're right. They tried to cover that up in the beginning, but they've now served over 30 years. The question of manslaughter versus murder. Should this abuse be relevant? Were the parents monsters themselves? Is there a version of this where it was sort of, okay, yes, you need to pay a price for what you did to your parents, but we can see why you did it. Is that sort of summarize where these sides stand, of some saying there's no excuse for murder, I don't care what they did to him, others saying absolutely an excuse, these parents and what they did to Lyle Erik is unforgivable, no wonder they snapped?
Well, yeah, it ultimately comes down to a resentencing, okay? So there's nowhere in the cards are they going to get a new trial and be declared not guilty. That's not in the cards. They've admitted doing these. These are horrific crimes, and we can, talk a little bit more about that in a second. It's really about have they served enough time? And, if you really want to get in the weeds on it, there's a penal code section in California. It's penal code section 1172.1 allows the court at the request of the district attorney to recall the sentence and reconsider it. And that's more at what's in play. 35 years in prison is a long time to serve. So this could happen. They could be released. What I think is frustrating for me, and now I get it more into my opinion of it, having followed this thing from the beginning. Let's just assume everything they're saying about Dad is correct. And again, I don't accept that that's necessarily true because that's them saying it. But let's just assume for a second for the analysis, everything they say about Dad happened. Does that justify killing Dad? No, it doesn't. Do they have a reason to kill Dad? Yes. Now you mix in Mom. Mom never abused these kids. That's not even alleged. At most, it was, she enabled it by not stopping him. Does that justify killing her? Of course not. And the sister coming in there and saying, well, hey, it's nice that we're all so progressive now that we kind of realize that, well, if you've been kind of harmed, that you can just go around and start blowing people away with a shotgun. This is what I think you really got to think about. Okay. If you're, and to me, just to get it all out here, I think 35 years, fine. If the DA, if the judge, more importantly, thinks 35 years is enough, I'm fine with that. 35 years is a long time. I would like it if they took responsibility, which they have taken none, zero. But the mom, that's the really hard part. They killed both of these people in the most violent way you could think about. If you understand how a shotgun works and what that does to the human body, this is a horrific crime. Killed from behind. Okay? So it's not in the act of abuse. The guy's sitting here on his couch watching TV or something, and they come from behind him. So he's not an active threat at that moment. It's doesn't even aware that they're there. The mom then is aware because she gets shot second. And she doesn't perish from the initial shots, and they reload and kill her. I mean, you got to think about who could do that. I mean, that is a sadistic thing to do. And it's like, they're just children. Okay. It's like, how do you kill your own mom with a shotgun, and again, reload and shoot more?
Well, I could sit here and argue with you, Chris, and say she sit there and let it happen, right? She was allowing this. She supported it and didn't ever stop it. Like, there are reasons on both sides as to why they're going to make that. But you make a good point. I haven't seen evidence that exactly they've said that she did the abuse, but she did sort of sit back and let it happen. I guess regardless of our opinions on it, though, at the end of the day, this new evidence has come in reaffirming that there's abuse, right? There's this letter that's come in, sort of coming in, admitting, saying, well, he did admit this prior. And now there's this new evidence of another member of Menudo who has come forward and said the dad was abusive. Is that good enough new evidence to, bring this up and resentence the duo?
Well, it's fine. Like I say, I think that there's no one's proposing or reasonably, that they be declared not guilty, because they are guilty. The only question is, are they guilty of manslaughter, second-degree murder, or first-degree murder? That's what we're talking about, just to kind of put it into context. And like I say, I think if they came up and took more responsibility, I would be okay, honestly, just fine. 35 years is enough. Obviously, I'm not making the decision here. I think 35 years is a long time, so I could see them getting out. What frustrates me is killing the mom, okay. This is somehow all rationalized. You listen to that. I mean, even the relatives, they've all rationalized it. And other people who were on the pro Menendez brothers bandwagon rationalize blowing away your mom with a shotgun. And again, and the reason why I'm so skeptical of them is they didn't immediately come out and say, hey, police, I did this. This is why I did this. They denied it. They're like, oh, we had nothing to do with it. And so, again, I think there is a decent chance that they could get out. Final little point here. Everyone keeps mentioning about election season and not politics. What's going on in L.A.? We have George Gascon. He is about to,
for the record, too, he just admitted in a recent interview they don't deserve to be in prison until they die. This was a new quote that just came out.
And so he is a extremely progressive prosecutor brought in on that basis by the voters in L.A. County. We are not a safe county as a result of him. And he is about to be booted out. The polling, there's a staggering difference there between his opponents. So I think people have realized.
He's desperate, basically.
I think he's definitely, looking to attach his name to a high-profile story. But I don't begrudge them the right to ask for resentencing. Again, 35 years is a long time. So I don't begrudge that, but that's why all the relatives keep saying, oh, this isn't a political stunt and all this. It's Gascon is the one. He's on his way out.
Just to reiterate what Christopher's saying, I love this. I'm working late because I'm a DA. It's just a little cringy. But he's trying desperately. Kim Kardashian's visiting, we got to let him go. Like, there's definitely a lot of Hollywood, entertainment, attention, TikTok, all directed that I think thinks this is going to help him get reelected. Is that a fair assumption?
Well, look, the people who are voting him out, this is not going to do anything for those folks. Like I say, the at least the way the polling is looking, the majority, and I'm talking vast majority of LA County voters want him gone immediately because his policies have made our county unsafe. Okay. Now, all they need him for is to recommend that their sentence be recalled, because under that statute that I cited, Penal Code Section 1172.1, the only way they can get this in front of a judge is if Gascon says, I'm in favor of a resentence. Once he says that, they don't need him anymore. Then they just go to work on the judge and make the argument that, hey, 35 years is a long time to serve in prison for a crime, even a horrific one like this, and they had no prior criminal history, and look at the abuse situation, and a judge could let them out. So that's how this thing is going to maneuver through the system.
So interesting. I appreciate your take, because it's true that with you say about the mother, there is definitely a premeditated murder here. Manslaughter, I guess that's what I'm asking. Do you think there's a difference? Does this become more manslaughter to you based on these allegations, or because of the mother and all the prep going into it and brutality, you don't see it that way? You do still see it as murder?
Oh yeah. The thing is that, and again, they can keep the current charge and resentence them, the first degree murder charge, and resentence them to time served and release them that very day. That could happen within the law. What they were arguing for at trial was either for a straight acquittal or for hoping that the jury would find what's called an imperfect right of self-defense. So what that is like, obviously, if you have a self-defense, perfect right of self-defense where you're in fear of immediate death or great bodily injury by somebody else, you have the right to use lethal force to defend yourself, and that's not a crime to kill somebody. That's a justifiable homicide. Here they're saying that they believed that they needed to kill both of their parents to protect themselves, but a reasonable person would not have had that belief. A reasonable person, would find other ways of addressing this problem, like maybe calling the police or running away or doing something like that, but not murdering both of them. So it's an imperfect right of self-defense, and that, if the jury had accepted that, would have taken it from a first-degree murder down to potentially a manslaughter charge. And their beef is saying, hey, the first trial, they ran the abuse allegation, resulted in a hung jury. And the second trial, that abuse information was severely limited, and they were convicted. So they do have some basis to say that the limitation of that abuse information resulted them getting convicted of the first-degree murder and therefore a life sentence. And they would have potentially got a lower sentence and would have been out by now had the evidence been fully presented. So that, again, that's why I could see a good case for them being released. But in no way are they innocent. They're not even, they're admitting they killed their parents. They murdered them with shotguns. They're not innocent people.
It's reminiscent of the whole Gypsy Rose part of it too. There was a part, Mark Argos, and actually several members said it. If these were the Menendez sisters, they wouldn't have gotten a sentence. I mean, do you think that's a fair argument? Do you think times were different then? I mean, just the whole homophobia back in the early 90s, it was a real thing. Jurors have come forward and sort of admitted that's part of the reason it was hung the first time. What do you think? Has times now changed in a way that this should be resentenced?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, times change. People have different, kind of thoughts or awareness and education on things. But like I say, the mom, okay, that's the part I'm stuck on. Because like I say, I just accept everything that they say about Jose Menendez is true. I'm just assuming that for purposes of my analysis. How does that justify blowing your mom away? And again, it's not like they poisoned her tea, and she just, fell asleep and died in her sleep. I mean, it's like they killed her with a shotgun. I mean, blowing this person to bits. Reloading. That's the part where, and again, it's, so that's the problem that I have with it. Again, I'm not making these decisions. It doesn't really matter what I say. But I would appreciate it. I think if they took more accountability for stuff.
Well, no, they're just gonna get out and they're gonna go on Dancing with the Stars, just like Anna Delvey. That's how the society's gonna treat them. They're gonna be reality stars if and when this happens, keeping up with the Kardashians. And it sounds like a lot of the audience, we asked the poll, what do you think? Should they be released? 65% said yes. No, 17% said no. So the public does seem to be leaning towards they've served enough time, enough is enough. And it sounds like you're not against that idea either. But like you said, you wish they would just take some more accountability and acknowledge what you did was wrong. You've served your time. Enough is enough. Fine. But at least own it. Yes. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's exactly right. I have no, like I say, not my decision to make. But if they got released, I'm not offended by that because they have served so long. I mean, 35 years in prison. But I just wish they would come forth and just like, hey, we could have found other ways of dealing with this. And again, I don't pretend to know how they were feeling and young men at that point. But I guess it's just blowing away the mom. I mean,
many are saying in the chat, and again, I'm new to this. Some of the chat are saying Lyle did say Kitty abused him.
Yeah.
I need to look that up. But from what I've gathered, it was definitely more leaning on Jose and Kitty not doing anything. But if there was, would that change your mind? If there was abuse from both parties, then I guess, would you have a little bit more empathy for them?
No, because it's like when you kill somebody, you take away their voice, you take away their ability to defend themselves. And that's what was maddening at the first trial when Leslie Abramson, the attorney for them, is coming out there and saying that, Jose did all these things. And it's like, okay, but Jose can't speak for himself at this point. They took Jose's voice away from him, his right to defend himself away by murdering him on his couch with a shotgun. And so for now everyone to take all this as gospel, it's like they shot and killed the two people who could have testified as to what really happened in that household.
And served a proper sentence if they were indeed guilty, right? Go to jail, like they should have been in jail as well. So they would have been in jail, and if Lyle Erik hadn't shot them, they would have been free. So that is, we aren't supposed to kill people. Christopher's right there. That is not the way to solve these issues. It's to tell the police. But I don't know. There's a lot of argument in the chat, and I see it. I love it. They're like, damn, Christopher, I finally disagree with you. you're going in hot on them. But I hear where you're coming from, because that is the argument here, guys. And there does seem to be that point of, no, murder doesn't justify it. And I heard a lot with the Gypsy Rose case as well. Yes, abuse is bad. It's not good, but still, we can't just let go every person who's been abused and make that be an excuse that suddenly a get out of jail free card. I imagine that would be dangerous, Christopher, no?
Well, yeah. And I totally understand, there's survivor issue where, somebody, let's say this abuse is happening. The father, he's powerful, he's rich, and he's physically larger than they are. And maybe they got to get him when he's not looking, right? Because they're not going to get hand-to-hand combat with this guy. So they got to sneak up on him and get him. Okay. Maybe that's the imperfect self-defense. If you look that up, that is where this comes from. And it's usually a very weaker person who's been abused, who, does something to their abuser while they're sleeping, because that's the only time that they could prepare and do the act. Okay. And I understand that. And like I say, fine, I'll give you dad. Kill your mom? This is what I'm saying is, and I don't know, like, if the people who are saying, hey, they're innocent, and I don't know if there's any of those folks here. Again, I'm okay. Let them out. Fine.
But they're not innocent. You're saying that they've admitted this. Yes.
Yeah. If you're saying that they're innocent, I ask you to look at this mom situation. And have you fired a shotgun before? You know how loud that is? You know how powerful that is designed to blow people into pieces. And imagine doing that to your mom, and then your mom not perishing and kind of, dragging herself and understanding that her husband just got killed and that her sons have the one who done it and the sons have shot her, and to sit there and callously reload and finish her off. That like I say, I just I would ask people to reflect on that. Who could do that? And
someone who was abused since they were 6 years old by their parents. That'll F someone up in the head, no?
Well, sure. But then okay, great. The threat is gone. The evil parents are dead. The police come. Hey, this is what happened. I'm so glad you're here. I'm finally safe. No, listen to their interviews. It's
they spent a lot of money too. People on Christopher's side, right? They bought Rolexes, right? They really spent the money immediately afterwards. I love when Christopher comes on. He keeps it real and he gives another perspective. We're going to be debating this in the comments, but there's the thoughts. At the end of the day, though, we're waiting for this DA. The DA is already pretty much said on record they don't deserve to be in prison until they die. It sounds like you are acknowledging, even though you agree or don't really agree with the way they've handled it, you think they are murderers. You're okay with them getting out. It sounds like most people are. 35 years is fair. At the same time, though, they need to take more accountability. But this DA seems to be ready to make that move. It is political, no matter what they say. We will keep you updated as that happens. But do you imagine this DA is going to do it? This George guy is going to do it before election season? Is this a political move that you think he is going to play?
Yeah, there's a hearing coming up, and so I anticipate that Gascon will say that he is in favor of recalling the sentence and having them resentenced. And like I say, I don't really have a problem necessarily with that, but that's it. Then his role is over. It's up to the Superior Court judge to determine whether there would be any different sentencing. And I think if the judge says, yes, I'm recalling the sentence, that they walk immediately. It wouldn't make any sense to say, I'm recalling the sentence, and why don't you just do another 3 months or something and then get out? It would just be either you're staying in for life or you're out today.
There we go. Stay tuned. Kim's back here. I'm going to get her in. We're going to talk more. If you're watching live, don't go anywhere, but trim in this for the replay. That was a doozy.